Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talking Craps. And tonight is the night. We finally get Steve, Heavy Haltom, on Talking Craps to tell us about his exploits and his journey in the craps world. We are also joined by Nate Fernandez, better known as Darth Nader, the Dark Side Master himself. They round out the Axis Power Craps crew. And let's just turn it over to the guys and say, hey, guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, guy? What's going on?
Guys, man, I got to say that this is a real thrill and a real privilege for me because I have not been playing this game as long as a lot of people out there. But Steve, you were one of the first people that I connected with on your Axis Power Craps forum. And it's just been history from there. Why don't we kick off the show a little bit about your history? When did you start playing this game, and how did you get involved?
Well, that's a good one. I think probably everybody that's ever played craps had a Monopoly game at some point. That's really where I got started with my interest in dice. I think I was about 9 years old when my parents brought home a Monopoly game for my brother and I. My brother is about 3 years older than I am. And didn't take me long to figure out that, hey, this is an interesting game. If you roll doubles, hard ways, you get to roll twice. You get an extra turn. So being a pretty wily lad at an early age, I took the dice out to my dad's shop, got what we called a rat bastard file, and feathered the edges on the dice so they would roll hard ways. So I started down a wayward path at an early age and gimmicked those dice so they'd roll hard ways. And I grew up in the country, up in Arkansas. We had livestock and we did livestock shows. I worked in a cattle auction barn when I was a teenager, and there was always a poker game or a dice game going on around where we worked cattle in the barns and the stockyards. Got involved in a lot of that action. Then in the military, you're playing barracks games, that sort of thing. Worked in radio and television broadcasting in my wayward youth, and we did a lot of charity events around town. Worked in New Orleans, and they had casino nights at different churches. And if you're a radio personality, you often get volunteered to be a host at one of those things and MC it, that sort of thing. So I played some craps at some of those casino nights and got really interested in an honest-to-God table game where they played it as opposed to bouncing the dice off the wall. So that was really the first time I played craps on a table was in New Orleans in 1971. You played for coupons, and then you got to bid on charity auction items they had with your number of coupons you had. And I bought a pocket knife for $161 worth of coupons. And I've still got that pocket knife today at home in my sock drawer. So those things last if they mean something to you. And it did. So my wife and I started playing a little in Las Vegas from that point, and I slowly became a regular player out there. We take junket trips 3 to 4 times a year. We were married 17 years before we had our first child, so we had the discretionary income to play frequently. And that's what we did. So I got very interested in the game, and I could afford to lose 4 times a year to pay for the entertainment. We got the treatment, we got the free rooms, the comps, the airfare, the whole 9 yards. So it was a great deal. Then in 1994, the riverboats opened in Louisiana. And I went from being a 3 to 4 times a year player to being a 3 to 4 times a month player. And suddenly I had to find a smarter way to play. And at that point, I started watching the regular players at the craps table and discovered that, son of a gun, some of these guys are better shooters than others. Why the heck is that? And I noticed that every one of them was setting the dice the same way and tossing them the same way. And in fact, in those days, they were all stacking the dice. They were stacking the dice with the 6s facing up and were tossing diagonally across the table into the hook. And they got a lot of repeating numbers. So I said, I can do that. So I started stacking the dice with the sixes crossed, tap them on the table, lob them down into the hook, and pretty soon the ladies that played the field all the time gave me the nickname the Field Man because I threw so many field numbers. I'd walk in the door of the casino and I'd hear the ladies say, "Oh, here comes the Field Man." And I go throw nines and 12s over and over and over. Well, this was pretty cool. And then I was on a cruise a few years later and I got on a kick where I was throwing nothing but threes. And I threw three craps 6 times in a row. And the little dealerette says, "Sir, if you're not betting the three craps, you're not winning." And dawned on me that, there are things like signature numbers that you should bet if you throw a lot. So I started betting the three craps on every hand. And even though I didn't throw three craps on every toss, I could run a little negative progression and make money on it. So from that point, I started looking more seriously at tracking my rolls, seeing what numbers were running outside of the normal distribution, and then focused on betting just those numbers. And it just grew exponentially from there. By the late 1990s, on the old internet groups that were out there, we're talking about the internet news groups. This was before we had forums, before Facebook, before Twitter and all these things. There were the news groups, and there was Rec Gambling Craps news group. And through our discussions of dice setting and dice control, I eventually became the designated guru over there. I was also the guy everyone picked on. You had the naysayers, kind of like on the craps group on Facebook right now, who just dogpiled on you and just dogpiled it. This is bullshit. This doesn't work. Why are you saying this? The sixes or the seven is statistically going to come up one rolling six over the long run. And I'm like, guys, I'm winning consistently, regardless of what you say. And they're like, "You're lying. You're just bullshit artists." Yeah, but I kept going to the casino and winning consistently over and over and over. In fact, I was making my house payment off winnings from the late 90s to the mid 2000s. So, yeah, you can win consistently if you're conservative, you understand what your signature numbers are, you bet accordingly, you have enough sense to take profit off the table and not let the money stay out there too long. And that's how I grew into it. Eventually, I attracted enough of a following that people started wanting me to do a seminar. And I'm like, I don't know about this, but I worked for Ford Motor Company as an outside salesperson. I was a regional sales manager, and a big part of my job was doing sales training. So I was used to standing up before groups of people and talking. So I put together a sales manual, or whatever, a training manual on dice control for casino craps. Put together a PowerPoint presentation, and I announced that I was going to do a seminar in Tunica, Mississippi in 2001. Jerry Patterson, who was doing par at the time, told me, "Steve, you'll never have more than 8 people sign up for a class in Tunica, Mississippi. I've tried it, and I just couldn't get anyone to sign up." Well, I said, "Jerry, I'm going to do it anyway. And if you don't mind, I'm going to get one of your guys to help me out do the class." And he said, "That's fine. I don't mind. Just kick the guy a few bucks." So I did. And we did this class together in 2001. And I had 23 people sign up for it. It was shocking. The class went very smoothly, started at 8 o'clock in the morning. We wrapped up about 4 o'clock. While I was loading all the stuff up in the truck after we finished the class, the students all went to play. There was one lady in our class who went over to the Hollywood Casino. Her name's Brenda. I won't say her last name. And there were a handful of guys that went with her over there to play. 3 guys in particular. One of them I will simply call the luckiest man alive. But these 3 guys were all friends. They were all high rollers. They bet big and they were fearless. Brenda tosses an hour-and-a-half hand. The luckiest man alive cashed out $180,000 win. Between the three of these guys, they cashed out $300,000. Now, the next week, the trip reports hit the internet, and the recreational gambling craps news group Heavy did this seminar, and these guys won $300,000. And no one believes it. And then a dealer from the Hollywood casino chimes in and says, yeah, it happened. I was dealing on that game. So suddenly I was big time in demand for doing seminars around the country. And that's basically how I got started in the seminar business, and been doing seminars ever since for 20 years this year. That's a story.
That's an amazing start from the early '70s to the '90s, and your journey where you were asked to actually do a seminar. It wasn't necessarily your idea; that somebody asked you to do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to Nate. Let's go over to Nate for a few minutes and have him give us his origin story. So, Nate, start off telling us about Darth Nader. Where did that name come from?
Well, Darth Nader came later. Nate's been a long time nickname that I got tagged with back in college, and back then I was Nate the Skate, and which was okay. I've been called worse. But I guess my craps journey started. I was a California kid, so Southern California, we go to Vegas on the weekends for golf back in the 70s and 80s, back before there was a Bellagio, and Bellagio was really a golf course, and you had like 2 or 3 golf courses on the strip, and you didn't have any hotels. I mean, the MGM Grand is where the best golf course in the city used to be, which is the Tropicana Country Club, which was all pine trees, except that when it's a 120-degree day, you can't believe you're not in the mountains because the whole course was below street level. So, you play golf all day, and it's like, oh, well, what are we going to do now? Well, let's go look at the casinos. And none of us knew anything about gambling or anything like that. We were a bunch of engineer, golfer-type dudes. And so, we'd start looking around. I never liked slots because I couldn't figure out how to beat them. And so, hopefully now someone out there watching will tell me the secret, since I keep hearing about people winning millions of dollars on the slots. And so I looked at craps. I liked blackjack. County 21 was something I could do. So I did a lot of that. And I guess the real moment of truth came from you guys at the boardwalk one day, which is, I guess, where Fedora is now. And they had a tub. So I'm playing the tub, and it's like I'm just killing it. I'm just putting the threes next to each other. I'm just killing it. I had no clue about dice setting. I had no clue about signature numbers or the right side or the dark side. I was just, I had $100 in the game, and I'm trying to make it $200. Well, I didn't know how to bet either. I never heard of a power press, which is the king of power pressing here, I'm sure we'll talk about later. And so I was just, betting. And then, I saw some other people making their bets bigger as I kept throwing 6s and 8s and all kinds of numbers. And so after about an hour, I got a big hand when I got done, and had all these people with all these giant stacks of chips, and I had like a small stack of chips. So I started trying to read books to figure out how I could have done better with what I was doing with my betting. And I struggled with that for a long time. I read most of the books. I read the Green Playboy book where they say, 3 come bets with max odds. Of course, back then, max odds was double odds. So it was like, okay, now it's a lot different now. And so I was always trying to figure out how to bet better. And I finally decided, next time I'm in Vegas, I'm going to take a class. And this was about 20 years ago, 19 years ago. I had seen something on the internet from the dice coach, Bo Parker. Everybody knows Bo. And I said, he had all this stuff about dice influencing. It's like, well, that doesn't work because I'm an engineer. I know once you bounce it off the diamonds, it's going to be random. So, I don't believe it. So, but I need to learn how to bet better. And one of the things he offered was a hour or hour and a half on betting. So I call him up, I make an appointment, and I'm staying down on the strip because I was at a software IT conference that was, filling up the Bellagio Convention Center. So I was, he comes by, picks me up in the Dice Mobile, and we go up to his place. And of course, we're going at rush hour because I was going after the conference. So we got about an hour and a half in the car. And he says, how come you didn't ask me about dice setting and dice influencing? I said, well, I just don't believe it because, once it bounces off the diamonds, it's got to be random, right? And he goes, well, nah, I'd like you to think that, but it's probably not quite that. And I say, well, that's nice for you to say, but because you're promoting dice setting. And so we go to his craps pit, and he says, he takes my head, he puts it right down on the rail. He says, just watch for a while. Oh, okay. So I watched, and he tossed about 15 times, and they'd hit the diamonds, and the diamonds didn't do anything to them. They just came back off. They were tumbling over like this. They hit, and they'd come back, and they'd set on the ground or on the deck of the table, and it was like, oh, okay. Wow, the diamonds are basically bogus. Was my conclusion. I'm an engineer, so it's like I need to see the rocket go up a few times before I believe rockets work because they got no wings, right? Yeah. So after that, it's like, well, why don't you try a few? Let me show you a couple of things. So first thing he did was he tried to put me up at stick left, but since I was right-handed, we really switched me to stick right, and so then I threw about 15, 20 minutes. It's like, okay. I get it now. Now I get it. So we spent the next hour and a half about dice setting. We never got to betting. So, some will say, oh, I still don't know how to bet. And some who see me at the tables and see me not putting my odds on my come bets will say, yeah, you still haven't figured that out. It's like, well, I just don't like to put a lot of money out there when it's a table I don't know. It's a table I know. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So that was kind of my introduction to dice influencing and dice setting. I didn't really get into the dark side till a few years later when I'm, once again, at the IT conference at the Bellagio. Thank you, Bellagio. I mean, you guys did good for me on that. I take a break for lunch. It's like, well, I'll go play a little craps. And there's a guy sitting in the corner in the turn, the left turn, and he's a black chip guy. He's putting 3 black chips down and just waiting for a decision. And he is just raking them in. And I'm playing the right side, and I'm just getting crushed. So next time he puts his 3 black chips down, I put 3 red ones. And we win right away. And then he puts 3 black ones down, I put 3 more red ones. So pretty soon, I'm putting 3 green ones down. It's like, oh, this is pretty good. Now, this is before anybody called it the dark side. It took George Lucas to give us the dark side. Thanks, George. Give us the little hand grip, and off we go. So one of the things I started to do was like, there's not a whole lot about the dark side written down. The guys who have the book about the dark side, it's just like, well, they're all right side players. So it's like, let's do the opposite. Let's switch it around and we'll pretend we know about the dark side. But the one guy that I did find that knew something about it was John Patrick. So even though I don't like his ricochet process, I do like some of the other things in his book. And that got me to thinking about the dark side, about some other things. And about that time, it was like a year after I met Bo, I met Heavy. Raise your hand, Heavy. Wake up now. I'm almost done, buddy. And so I met Heavy, and I went to a couple of seminars with Heavy and Bo, and then I went to a Heavy seminar, and I met a lot of good people. I went to the first Craps Fest that they all put on at Stanford Long's place. Nice. And that was like the who's who of dice influencing. And I just kind of stayed in the corner and sucked it all in. and just kept listening and asking questions. I met some really good people that helped me and gave me some new ideas. And by then I was interested in the dark side as well. I've talked to a lot of people online that kind of gave me ideas. I've read a lot of stuff about the dark side. And so then there was just a point in time where it's like, well, a couple of times you start, winning at the tables, and the dark side comes in. You've got like a couple bets up there on the dark side. We did today. We weren't doing anything at the table, so we started betting the dark side. And my DP and my DC came in, and I just started humming the Imperial March. Na, 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 na. And the dealer lady next to me says, "Oh, that's really funny." She goes, "I like that." I go, "Yeah, I like that too. Winning's always something that you can like." And so I was doing that today, and I just started doing that. And it's like, well, Nader and Vader kind of rhyme, and I've always been a Star Wars fan. And
Yeah.
That was it. So
Awesome.
When Heavy's Pro Board changed from Pro Boards to the other thing you had, I just changed my nickname to Darth Nader, and just kept digging and just learning, everything. In engineering school, they teach you how to just keep digging and digging until you find all the answers. And, there's still answers out there to be found. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's go to the audience. We're starting to get some comments and questions in here. And of course, Mark Evangelisto is the first one up. He's saying there's nowhere near enough trash talking in this chat room, guys. You got to step up the games. So Mark's being an instigator out there. But I just saw
Mark his nickname from 22 Inside. I'm starting to call him 220 Inside. So back it up, bro.
Very nice. And we got Sarge out there. Sarge, thank you very much for the super chat, man. I do appreciate it. And he's asking a question. He says, do you guys play on a crapless craps? And what are your thoughts on that kind of game?
Dice controllers, the ones that I hang out with, love crapless craps.
Oh, yeah.
And we
6
even
to
have
1 on the 12.
Yeah, we have specific strategies we play for it. In Mississippi, we get automatic buys at $10 on the crapless craps game. So we play 44 working on the come out with a 87 bet hedge and a line bet, and we shoot for that 2 or 12 because you don't lose your line bet on the 2 or 12 if you throw it on the come out. So
it's a beautiful thing.
Throw that 2 or that 12, you get paid 6 to 1 on it because it's a buy bet. And then you just, you can press it or parlay it or press all the way across on your extreme out or whatever the heck you want to do. Use it for odds, but you can get more money on the table. And then you bet your old standards. You bet your dominant number. If you've got a dominant, so your dominant number is the 9, put some money on that. I say you always bet the 6 and the 8 because the vig on the 6 and 8 is the lowest on the table. So you get your extreme out, your 6 and your 8 and your dominant number and rock and roll. What do you think, Nate?
Well, I just, always have my horn set ready, and it's all about the outside numbers. I was a kind of a crapless craps neophyte till the last year, and really till the last 2 trips to Biloxi, where it seems like every other table there is a crapless table, which is, now I understand that it's not just, pretend it's the same kind of table and play the 6 and the 8. You really can't do that because, first of all, there's no dark side. So I just said, well, I don't even want to play if there's no dark side because you're taking half my game away. But then it's like, well, I still can make money with the other half because, some of the tables, they still got the ATS, which is, a lot of people know I love the ATS. And I think the only time you really need to pass line bet in crapless is when you're the shooter.
Correct.
And you're using the pass line. Basically, I'm looking at it like the one hit can't miss. I'm using the pass line to protect my my 2 and 12 bet. And I just set for a 2 or a 12 or horn number. I've been putting bets on the field, working on the come out because I just want those field numbers to feed the extremes because that's where the money is.
You mentioned one hit can't miss, and I did want to bring this up. somebody asked me to ask this for you, of you guys. So, do you qualify yourself before you start making any bets? And if so, how do you do it?
You want to do that first, or?
Well, one hit can't miss is not a strategy I typically use on myself. When I go to the tables to play, I have a predetermined strategy when I go to the table. So let's say it's Tuesday morning. I wake up and I say, hey, I'm going to go play the don'ts today. Then I go to the casino to play the damn don'ts. Now, if I get to the casino and I'm trying to 7-out and I can't freaking 7-out, then guess what? I'm going to transition to the right side. But I go that day to play the don'ts. Conversely, and most of the time, I don't go to play the don'ts. I have a group of guys I play with regularly, and when we go over there, we have a specific table, which happens to be crapless, by the way, which we usually play. And I have a specific strategy that I usually play on that table. And it's the one I just mentioned to you. We play the extreme outside, plus I play the 6 and 8. And if I get a hit on that 2 or that 12, I buy all the extreme outside numbers, convert them from place bets to buy bets. And then I'm collecting big bucks on every hit from there. And we go up and out, or up and in those cases, and get more money on the table. There are players at this particular casino who only play crapless craps. They practice throwing extreme outside numbers. I want to be on that table when those guys show up. I've seen one particular player from Dallas walk into that casino, hit the full all tall small on this crapless table with 25, 25, 25 on it.
Wow.
Reset it to 25, 25, 25, and hit it twice, hit it again. So there are guys out there that are serious shooters that know what they're doing, and I want to be in that place when that happens.
Yeah.
So perfect place, perfect time, be in the right place at the right time with the right strategy. So plan your play. I've always said, plan your play your plan. That's the way to play. Now, if it's not your day, things are not working out your way, you've got to have loss limits and you've got to stick with them. I mean, in my case, I drive 93 miles to the casino. Yes, I'll drive 93 miles to the casino, play 30 minutes and say, hey, this ain't working. And I'll drive 93 miles to the house. It just happens some days. Other days, I'll go over there and play for 18 freaking hours because it's too good to leave. So, pick your place to play, plan your play your plan, get in, get up, get gone.
Awesome. All right, let's go back over to the audience again. Toothpick Ted out there, a good friend of mine, he says, are Hawaiian shirts the key to being a craps master?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, then Mark out there, Mark really is trying to stir up some trouble. He says, if Nate ever shuts up, we can start heckling them. So we're going to see what comes up here in a minute. We've got a question from the Dice Grinder out there. How do you guys adjust for the tables that are not hard? So I'm assuming like a bouncy surface. So the ones with a couple of layers, layers or more of layouts. So do you have do you teach strategies on how to negate a bouncy table?
I understand. Bouncy tables are tricky. Step one, try to avoid them at all costs. But in today's market, there are more and more bouncy tables out there. Some by design, some by happenstance, because casino people that install the layouts are just lazy. They just slap one on top of another layout. The new layouts at Caesars Properties in Vegas, these guys are cheap. They pull the old layout off and they're slapping a new layout on over bare wood. I mean, those tables are hard as a rock. Personally, I love them, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people have gotten used to a little softer table, and they're bothered by the hard table. To me, the hard table is like we had 20 years ago. But on the bouncy tables, there are a couple of ways you can handle them. One is a higher lob shot that you kill the dice at the back wall. And the other is a much lower shot. Now, you've got to take a lot of that energy off the dice on a bouncy table. So you guys that use a lot of backspin, you got to kind of forget about that. Doesn't take a lot of backspin. It just puts more energy on the dice, and more energy is a bad thing on a bouncy table. So you want the least amount of energy you can put on the dice to get them to the back wall, to tap the wall and die, or you want to lob them in and just kill them at the base of the back wall. Both of those techniques take a lot of practice to master. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I like to do less backspin. Is always the right thing on a bouncy table. Almost knuckleballs, almost like you're floating them down there and you just keep reading the same two numbers on the faces over and over. Less spin is better, and trying to find the right landing zone, which means sometimes you got to aim a half-inch shorter, half-inch longer, so that the dice land flat. So they land on their edges, then they start bouncing even funnier because the bouncy table tends to accentuate any imperfections. So if you're a little bit off, the bouncy table will say, got you, you were off, I'm going to make you pay.
Yeah. So Nate, we've got a question from you from old number 7 PS. He's wanting to know, what dice do you throw on the dark side? I'm assuming a set. What dice set do you throw on the dark side?
So I do a lot of my toss tracking. So I've got a couple of different sets I throw, depending on if I want to set a point and then 7 out from that. I've got a couple of all 7 mutants that I toss, like a 4-5-5-4. That tends to work pretty well for me because there's a lot of 7s on there, and I also tend to try to throw a 9 or a 5 to set the point, and then 7 out from there. Although I have to say, since the casinos reopened, and now that there's only 6 people to a side, that means I get the dice about once every 5 players, and there's always a player that doesn't want to throw. So getting the dice maybe 1 out of every 4 around the table, it's more advantageous for me to shoot from the right side and have a longer hand. Especially if I'm on a bouncy table, I would much rather shoot from the right side. I've had limited dark side shooting the last 4 or 5 months. I guess we can thank the Rona for something. But it's a little different game now. And then you throw plexiglass in, so now you've got to be really particular about where you are positioned. Because since I'm left-handed, there's only a certain number of places I can shoot from that I don't wind up breaking my wrist on some plexiglass like I did yesterday at the Gold Coast. And so it's a little trickier now, but I like to set a point, and then I've got a couple of sets that 7 out. What I'll do is I'll just keep making DC bets until I throw the 7.
Gotcha. All right.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the most frequent questions we get online and in person from people is the "what set do you use?" ... question. And while I'm cheerfully tell people what sets I use, even though a lot of them are mutant sets, they're in the same family, like as the V2 or the V3 or the Cross Sixes or whatever, but they're variants of those sets. They're variants because I get different results than the next guy does, and they're based on idiosyncrasies in my toss, and everyone's toss is different. So asking me what set I use and my telling you what set I use really doesn't help you. What helps you is to take any set, I don't care which one, to take that set and use it in Bone Tracker, which is a program you can download for free from accesspowercraps.com. Learn to use Bone Tracker and track your rolls for 720 rolls or so. Then do the analysis on it and see which sets work best for you. There are 64 different sets in the current Bone Tracker version that you can look at that will give you varying results in different sets. And there are individual ones you can customize in there where you can plug in mutants within the same family to see if they will give you different results with higher SRR, 7-to-rolls ratios. And Nate's going to get into this more a little bit later and show you some screens with some new things that are coming up in Bone Tracker in the months to come. But I just want to hit on that very quickly because I use a set. It's a 3-1-2-3. The left die is a 3 on top, 1 facing you, 2 on top, 3 facing you. It's a V3 mutant. It's in the V3 family. There are 24 different sets in the V3 family. 24 different sets. There are 6 different families of sets. There are 24 different sets in each family. So, I mean, you go through and crank through this whole thing, and you really actually got 576 different combinations of the dice that you can play with. And every one of them is going to give you different results. And that's what Bone Tracker can do for you. It keeps you from having to go through and toss 720 or 7,200, whatever the number is, tosses to see what your results would be if you had tossed with that particular set. It just lets you substitute your numbers in with a new set. So it's a very valuable tool, and I highly encourage you guys to use it. And then you won't have to ask that question because you'll have the information on hand.
Yeah, very good. We are going to take a quick look at the Bone Tracker here in a few minutes. Nate is one of the, I don't know really what you want to call it, not the designer, because you didn't come up with the design, but you and Mark Evangelisto are working together to enhance Bone Tracker. So Nate, if you'll be on standby for a few minutes, we'll come back to you here in a couple of minutes and take a look at that. I also want to give a shout out to Low Roller Craps. Thank you for the super chat, man. Really do appreciate it. And then let's see here. Let's keep going down here. We've got some more questions from the audience. And this one is a bit of a loaded question, but it's I know I told you guys that I wouldn't give you any loaded questions, but I think this one is kind of important. It says, what's your option or opinions, I guess, on all the YouTube channels that have started trying to teach people to be shooters? And, I'm guilty of this myself. I have my own YouTube channel, and I used to do a lot of different strategies and showing my toss and things like that. And I've gotten away from that. But I'm going to come back to me for just a second. So I'm going to talk a little about this a little bit more. And what some of the reasons that I got away from doing practice sessions and teaching sessions is that, who am I? I've been playing this game for 2 or 3 years, and yeah, I may be on my own craps journey, but I felt like I have a responsibility that I cannot get up in front of everybody and say, I know what I'm doing, follow me. So I think I have that self-awareness, and that's why I've gotten away from it. I still do it from time to time, but I don't make any promises or, any kind of, I don't know really what to say it. I'm very transparent. And along with a couple of my friends that also have YouTube channels, we're also very transparent on what we do. We're not masters at this. If you want to be a master, go take a class. And we featured a couple of different people. We've got Heavy here from Axis Power Craps. We had Tony Leo. We had Mike Feldman from Golden Touch Craps on, and Howard Rock and Roller. So we do have some real professionals out there, and I do encourage you to take a real class and take YouTube with a grain of salt. Yes, you can find some gems of information and knowledge, but you can also learn some very bad habits from watching somebody who's not qualified to teach it. So I know I said I wouldn't do that to you guys, but I thought I would throw it out there and get on my soapbox for a minute.
Well, you just answered the damn question. So you named some good guys there that I know and enjoy playing with. Howard and I have done classes together for years. We've known each other for over 20 years and are good friends. We take cruises together. We do classes together. In fact, we've got one scheduled in July in Biloxi. So kudos to Howard. Michael Feldman, also a friend of mine. We played together in Las Vegas. Yes, he coaches for Golden Touch. Yes, Golden Touch is a competitor of mine. And a lot of people say, oh, Golden Touch and Heavy, they hate each other. Well, no. I've had a lot of clients come to me from Golden Touch because they want to see what's different from what we teach from what Golden Touch teaches. And we teach basically the same technique as far as toss is concerned. I'll tell you the difference. Uh, Golden Touch teaches a toss that has a backswing toss from when they set the dice and they do backswing and toss the dice. I teach you to shoot from the deck. Golden Touch teaches you to shoot at a 45-degree angle. I believe that puts too much energy on the dice and you should shoot from a 33 to 35-degree angle. Keep the dice a little lower. The 45-degree angle was a thing that sharpshooter came up with over 20 years ago when all the tables had felt layouts. They don't have felt layouts anymore. So that's my reasoning behind the lower toss and less revolutions too. I teach less revolutions on the dice. So there are a couple of basic things different what we teach, but essentially the technique is the same, which is why in my classes I give Golden Touch alumni a discount because I don't have to teach them how to grip the dice and toss the dice. All we have to do is get them to shoot from the deck and break the dice down a little bit lower. Great guys, love them to death. So anybody that thinks that, Heavy hates Golden Touch people, well, bullshit. Okay, I don't. These guys are great. So put that behind you. I've never met Tony Leo, but I've looked at his channel on the internet. Professionally done, great looking stuff. I don't have a problem with Tony. Local guy here in Vegas, I know several people that have done classes with him and been very happy with him. So he's got to be doing something right. Ed Parson, who's got Roll to Win, I believe, is his video channel.
Yeah.
Ed's one of my students. In fact, he was here this weekend playing with us. I saw him about 3 hours ago. Ed is a fantastic player. I mean, this guy, if you watch any of his trip reports on Facebook, he is one of the biggest chip porn guys you'll ever see. We saw some chip porn from him this morning where he showed, I think it was $6,500 he cashed out this morning after being on the tear all night last night.
10-10-10 ATS. Thank you.
10-10-10 all tall small hit. Yeah. So, I mean, Ed, nicknamed Parson, he's a great guy. And he's got a great channel on YouTube, and he was on with you just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything Ed says, listen to it. The guy knows what the hell he's talking about. Now, Brian, Hawaiian crap shooter, good guy. Love Brian to death. I have a high opinion of him. So, there are a few of these guys that have internet channels that I like. I like. I forget his name, but the guy that's got the betting channel.
Oh, Color Up. Jeremy.
I'm sorry?
Jeremy from Color Up.
Color Up, yeah, Color Up. Does a good job showing you betting strategies. Doesn't teach dice control. Doesn't believe in dice control. He actually competed against that idiot. I mean, that other guy, King Dice, and beat him in a contest of a controlled shooter against a random shooter. Ill-conceived contest, by the way. But nevertheless, what the heck? Color Up seems like a genuinely nice guy, and he does a great job of demonstrating betting strategies. I look at his stuff all the time. He's very entertaining and does a professional job of it. Now, 80% of the other stuff I see online, I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to get anything stirred up. But seriously, it's bullshit. And you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand the math of the game. You can't toss a dice worth of shit. And if you really want to get down to it, the only reason most of you guys have your channels is because you're trying to get followers. So you're trying to build some income revenue off your pages. I got an idea. Learn how to toss the dice and go to the casino and make some money there first. Then when you prove you can do that, then come back and get a channel and make some money. That's just my opinion. And I know it's going to piss some people off, but get over it.
You heard it here. So that's about as candid and as honest of an opinion as I think you're going to get on
I'll smile
YouTube.
when I say it.
All right, guys. So let's go back over here. We've got a couple of the Hawaiian crew out there watching us right now, and they are fans of your shirts. So we've got Grant out there. Love the Aloha shirts. Is there a story behind why you guys wear them?
I can tell you mine. Goes back to when my wife used to go to the casino with me. Make it easier for her to find me. Look for the ugliest shirt in the casino. That's me.
Yeah,
and if you want to disappear, you go to the cow. Let's see here. I guess I saw another one. There, Biff Helms out there saying you must be buddies with Mel Lumho. He's another one of my YouTube friends. Let's see here.
I see him on the Facebook group and around all the time.
Yeah.
From the California. He was just there, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Okay, so Pony Players wants to ask a question. He says, what casino do you play at in Shreveport?
Oh, that's a secret.
That's right.
Oh, we're bad to play at the El Dorado on the crapless table there. That's the secret favorite table.
Trying to see if there's some other questions out there and get caught up on some of the comments. Let's see here. Yeah, Greg Taddeo is saying not a lot of room for on the plexiglass for a full throw. Has that impacted your?
Yeah, when you're a wide body.
So have you guys been able to alter your toss?
At Flamingo today, they were taking the plexiglass down. They had a tape measure, and they were moving them closer together so they could get an extra player in on each end.
Oh, wow. Well, that actually brings me to one of the questions that I did want to ask about. And let's go ahead and flip over to that real quick. You're there in Las Vegas right now, and I believe you did some classes on Bone Tracker and maybe some private lessons this weekend. So how are things looking in Vegas? Are they starting to return to normal? Are we seeing shows and restaurants open? And what is the condition of Vegas right now?
Let me start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Gov increased occupancy rates at restaurants and hotels to 50% effective the 15th of March. And then St. Patrick's Day whammied. And now you've got March Madness roaring to town. So this week's been probably the hottest week in quite a while. I mean, the Super Bowl was pretty big despite all the restrictions. I keep hearing that there's shows out, but none of the big famous shows that you hear about are back. None of the Cirque du Soleil shows are back. Celine Dion hasn't called me up and offered me tickets yet, so I don't think she's back. Neither is Lady Gaga that I can hear. I don't think any big amphitheaters are open yet. On the 1st of May, if the numbers stay where they are, the Clark County is supposedly going to take jurisdiction and control. The Gov is going to relinquish control from the state level down to the county level. So I suspect we'll see some more relaxing after the 1st of May. The numbers are down. I mean, the 7-day moving average, I check it on Google every morning, is now down under 300 new cases a day. They finally got their act together in terms of vaccination distribution, so that's real good. Effective 5th of May, anybody over 16 that's in Nevada can get an appointment to be vaccinated. So I think that's a big step in the right direction. And I don't want to be ragging on any of the politicians or anything, because I mean, they had a hand dealt to them that they couldn't win. So, we're just all trying to get through that. But I think it's going to be, I think things are going to be better. I think the strain isn't nearly as strong as it was a year ago. And they know a lot more about preventive procedures and things like that. And I think people have been behaving better than they were a year ago, too, in terms of masks and understanding the situation. So.
Yeah. I think people are getting used to being returning to normal with some restrictions, I think. So, Nate, the next several questions that we have coming through here are about bone trackers. So, if you go ahead and cue that up, I'm going to ask Heavy another question while you're sharing that screen. So, Heavy, can you tell us a little bit about how we should approach practice? So, a lot of people have these practice rigs at home or tables at home, but in my experience or my thoughts, people play; they don't practice.
Right.
So, can you give us a little bit of insight, or maybe some pointers on how we should be approaching our daily routines?
Well, I'll tell you how I practice. And I'm probably different from most people because I don't set aside a specific time to practice. I practice every time I walk by my table. So my table just happens to be between my office and the bathroom. So if I leave my office to walk down the hall to the bathroom, I have to walk by the crap studio, step in there, and I toss a hand. So I walk up to the table, set the dice, set a point, and toss the dice until I 7 out. I may go 0.7 out and go to the bathroom from there, or I might toss a 96 number hand. Then it's on to the bathroom, wash my hands, dry them, come back, and when I walk by the table, I toss another hand, then back to the office. Later in the day, after 6 cups of coffee, back toward the bathroom, I stop again and toss another hand and rinse and repeat throughout the day. So I may get in, 60 tosses one day and 300 tosses the next, depending on how many trips to the bathroom and how good a toss when I toss the dice. But I practice every day and I have a routine when I do it. And that's the key. You can't go and say, in my opinion, you can't say, I'm going to go back to my craps room and practice for 2 hours and throw 300 times, because you don't do that in the casino. Right. Okay, the dice come to you and you toss a hand, and then you wait for 30 or 40 minutes for the dice to come back to you, and then you toss another hand, and then you wait again. So your practice sessions, in my opinion, should pretty much mimic that. So let's figure out some way to do that. Now, you could do that by setting an alarm on your cell phone if you're retired like me and you're home, and you could, there goes the alarm, time to go toss a hand. Or you could use your bladder for your alarm clock like I do. But use something to trigger you to, hey, it's time to go toss a hand. And just toss a hand when you walk by your practice rig. It's simple enough. It's worked for me for years, and it can work for you.
All right, so before we go over to Nate, there is another question that just came in from Dice Grinders. Do you specifically toss from only stick left or stick right? So what do you teach, Heavy? What do you teach in your class?
Yeah, actually, we teach everything. So primarily, we teach stick left, stick right. Then we teach optional straight out. Now, lately, because of the advent of the plexiglass, we're teaching much more straight out shooting, because straight out gives you a clear view with the plexiglass. You don't have to wrestle your way in there and bang your elbow on it. And you can see all the bruises on my arms probably from plexiglass this weekend. Got a pretty good one on this wrist here where I wanged it. So, yeah, I mean, you get pretty scuffed up in there if you're not careful, especially the first time you toss. That first whack job you get will say, okay, I'm not going to repeat that. And so you learn pretty quick to be careful with it. Every casino is installing that stuff differently too. If you go downtown, some of the casinos downtown, the plexiglass will end at the front of the chip rail, between the chip rail and the padded rail. Where at all the Caesars properties, it goes all the way out past the chip rail to the edge of the table. Well, that extra 5 inches makes a huge difference in how much room you have to get out over the table to throw the dice. For guys that are a little shorter in stature, it means you've got to, I'm sorry. You got to get up on your tiptoes like a ballet dancer to get over the table if you're going to throw left-handed backhanded, or from stick right-handed backhanded. So tossing from straight out is really a good option for people. It's only about 3 to 4 feet farther. So what's the difference? You've got to put a little bit more energy on the dice to get them down there. Takes a little practice. You don't want to put too much backspin on the dice. You just want to get them down there and let Mother Nature take care of the rest of it.
Yeah. Okay. So makes me think of another question, that axis power craps, keeping your dice on axis. It's in the name. Is that real important? Is keeping the dice on axis important, or do you teach tosses that are, cater to the off axis group?
I don't teach off-axis tosses. There are 2 elements of control to the dice. There's the axis control and their pitch control. Okay, axis control, and I'll pick up the dice here. Axis control simply means if you set them like this with the let's set the hard way set with a 6-1, 6-1 on the side. Okay, so you set a hard way set, and we have the 6-1, 6-1 on the side. That means when the dice land and come to a rest, they don't have to be on the hard ways. They could be on the 3-2 or the 5-4 or whatever. But the 6-1, 6-1 still on the side when the roll ends. Okay, they're on axis. That's what on axis means. So that's important. As long as they're on axis, you reduce the number of ways a 7 can roll. The other thing is pitch control. Pitch control is the way they tumble forward when they roll. So if you have perfect pitch control, these dice will start out with the 5s on top and the 4s facing the 3s, whatever, and they'll pitch forward or pitch backwards. But perfect pitch means they remain fixed in that position. So at the end of the roll, the 3s are still together. The 4s are still together. 5s are still together. They all stick together. You get a single pitch. You know what a single pitch is? They shift one face from each other. But if you get a double pitch, the ugly number shows up. You get a 2-face shift. So pitch control is important. You don't want the double pitch. So you're trying to control 2 things with your toss, the axis and the pitch. Both those things are important. I could have just as easily have called this program Perfect Pitch Craps as opposed to Axis Power Craps back when I first launched it. At the time, I felt like axis was the most important thing. Actually, if you have perfect pitch, you'll never throw a 7. If you could get the dice to rotate perfectly every time, perfectly in sync every time, you'll never throw a 7. You can't, because you'll always have the same 2 numbers showing on the face. So perfect pitch craps would be perfect. It makes wonderful sense. Whereas axis power craps, you can be on the same axis, but if the pitches don't stay the same, then you can still roll a 7. So I'm axis power craps. That's the way it is. We teach people to try and keep the dice on axis, but we also teach them to try and control the pitch, and that's done through the correct grip and the correct toss. It's all part of the same toss. Now, when the dice go off axis and they pitch, it becomes more of a randomized toss. You get more random results. However, there's a correlationship established between the dice when you set them, that even though they roll off axis, they pitch, that relationship is to a degree still maintained. If you had set those dice on different numbers before the toss and thrown them exactly the same, you would have gotten different results, which proves that that correlationship between the dice is the same. Now, do I teach an off-axis toss? No. Why? because no one has ever scientifically proven that an off-axis toss works. Now think about that. With Bone Tracker for the last 20 years, we've been able to demonstrate through our tracking and validation of numbers that you can gain a positive expectation through setting the dice. But Bone Tracker is set up to track on-axis performance and pitch performance. It's not designed to track off-axis tossing. And to my knowledge, there's no program out there designed to test off-axis performance to gauge whether or not it will give you a positive expectation or not. What are you testing for if you're testing an off-axis toss? To me, an off-axis toss is a random toss. Now, I do seminars with Howard Rock and Roller. Howard teaches an off-axis toss. Howard has fantastic results with this off-axis toss. Am I going to tell you it doesn't work? No, because I've seen him have 50 and 60 number hands with it. But am I going to teach it? No, because I don't use it. I don't have experience with it, and I have no way to validate it. I don't have a tool to prove it. So until that tool is developed by someone, not me, I'm not going to be able to, to offer you any proof that it works. So it's kind of an is what it is thing. So do I believe those things work? Yeah, I believe they can work. Do I teach them? No, I don't. Will I bet on somebody that uses an off-axis toss? If it's somebody I know and I've played with them before and seen their results and yeah, probably so.
So
that's where I stand.
Actually, that's a pretty good segue into the Bone Tracker segment here. There's one metric on Bone Tracker. It's the percent on axis. Is there a number that let's say the new person? Is there a number that they should be striving for? How do you know if you're good?
Well, yeah, random, and there's random and there's random. Okay, how do you know if your on-axis result was really on-axis or if it was a random off-axis? Okay, you really don't. But when you look at the random off-axis or on-axis, I apologize, the on-axis comes out to 44.4%. So we consider that average, random, 44.4%. So typically we're looking to get someone up around 50% as a target to start out with. Now, I see occasionally guys with 52, 53, 55% on axis, but that's with a lot of practice. If you can get up over 50% on axis, in my opinion, you're doing great. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I mean, 44.4 is where the average flinger is, but most of us are shooting to get to 50. There's been sessions where I get well above 50, but some of that's just I'm on that day. I look at that. I look at repeating numbers. What happens when my one die goes off axis? When one die's off axis, that's another, over 40% of your tosses are going to be off axis. What happens then? Is it the same thing that happens? Does the left one fall off more than the right one? Things like that. I've been shooting a lot from straight out, and my numbers, usually top out at 50, 51. I had very few sessions where I get way up there in the 50s. And if it is, it's just because I had a little luck or a nice long streak, and it's a statistical anomaly. But 50% is always a good spot for me. That's kind of where I shoot for.
Okay. All right, Nate, let's take a look at Bone Tracker if we can. If we can time box this, let's spend about maybe 5-10 minutes on it and see what we can do. See what we can learn.
So on my screen. Are you receiving?
Yeah, it should be displaying out to everybody now.
Okay. So what we got on the screen, I'm just moving the mouse around, and let me take 15 seconds to do the origin story on Bone Tracker. It was done by Mad Dog Sean, and it's been around for around 20 years. Sean did several versions of it, and then I think Sean got to the point where he was doing other things because there hasn't been another version in, nor have we heard much from Sean lately. So we're all hoping to hear from him. And if you've seen this broadcast, buddy, pick up the phone and get in touch with the Natester here. Several things have happened. Part of it we got to blame on the Rona, because I started fooling around with it when I was locked down and the casinos were shut down. I started saying, well, there's a few things I want to change. There's a few things I want to do different. And at the same time, Mark sent me a version that he'd been tinkering with. And so there was a lot of different things. So that's how Mark and I have gotten to where we've doing the extended version, which is going to come out next month, and it'll be available through the links on Heavy's Access Power Craft site. And
yeah, that was actually real quick. That was actually one of the popular questions. We had quite a few people asking that. When is it going to be published? So you're saying
we're trying to. Yeah, as soon as I come back from Hawaii, because we're going on vacation for a couple of days, and so if I come back, the idea was to try to G Drive, and so any email address that was on the Access Power Crafts board could just get the automatic download. So that's what we're going to try and do. And I'll give you a brief summary of the things we've added since Mad Dog's 5.6 version. We're calling it 5.6.02. IT geek on you pretty fast here, David. So if I do, just throw some cold water at me. And I made a copy of the Bone Tracker Extended. This is it, and it's made for David, St. Bet Carlin. So I'll be sending this to you afterwards, buddy. So what we've done here, some of the key things we've done is to where it actually displays up to 1,440 rolls in 1440 land. You've got that capability, and then it will transpose all those through a variety of means. We've also done some more things about the actual facing on the toss stats tab. I just switched tabs. We're now on the original Bone Tracker, you were able to sort the first 10 patterns of influence, but now we can sort all 36. And one of the things that we did was we color coded the 7 so they would stand out. And this is a demo file I have. I'm going to say a big thanks to Kevin for the idea of changing the colors here and making them red. Thumbs up to you, buddy. And thanks for being an early adopter tester of some of our trials here. But one of the things you can see here now is it wasn't as apparent until now that, part of my goals, the most repeating patterns, the most repeating face matches, if I've got up here at the top, one of my combinations is a 7, well, that might tell me that I have the wrong set. And in this example, and this is a pretty much unfiltered example from one of our friends that was happy to let me use their tosses, you can see that all 6 of their 7 combinations are in the bottom 4th of the 36 combinations. And that also explains why their SRR is so high, because less 7s means it's less likely that you're going to have a lot of high combinations. In this case, their biggest combination is a soft 10, a soft 6, and a soft 8. Right there, 1, 2, 3. So the fact that we have more patterns of influence sorted here, you can see the overall sorting of your toss, the whole of our distribution. Over on the transpose tab, in the original Bone Tracker, you had 6 different sets that you could program in whatever you wanted them to be. And Mark and I have pushed that out to 24. So now you have 24 sets here that you can program in. We've also changed the color coding here at the bottom to make it a little easier to read. There were a couple of glitches up in here where it was finding the biggest number and not displaying the maximum correctly. So we cleaned all that up. Any of you that know Excel know that conditional formatting is a strange beast in Excel, and sometimes it takes a little getting used to. I'm sure there's a couple people out there laughing when I say that.
Yeah,
but
myself. I'm familiar.
Yeah. So we've left a lot of things in. We left all the dice tool stuff in, even though I'm not a big fan of that. We put the credits and revision control in so you can see all the things we've added to it. And it's interesting when you go from 6 tosses up to 1,440, from 6 transpositions to 24, that doubles the size of this thing. So this is just a little over 4 gig now versus 2.5 gig. And what we're going to have is, Heavy's got all the links for the original Bone Tracker. And next month we'll have all the links for the extended Bone Tracker.
Okay.
I'll say one more thing. This might be a segue to another screen. The P1, this is P1, and off the screen is P24. Each one of these sets in yellow, once you type in a new set, it's top, front, it will automatically fill in the other 6 for all 24. And we've chosen in the Bone Tracker Extended to use, like, P1 is the first coaster group, P2 is the second coaster group, P3 is the third coaster group. So when you type in your 720 tosses or your 1,440, right away you can go across you'll see the 24 different groups, which represent the 576 sets. You can see right away which one of these P1 through P24 will give you the highest SRR. Now, before everyone clamors, SRR is not everything, because it still comes down to how the numbers distribute. Because frankly, I've got some SRRs that are really good, but they're all horn numbers. So if you're betting the 6 and 8 and wondering why you're not getting these 6s and 8s, it's because you need to deep dive in here and see what they are. But that's just some of the things we have.
You mentioned a term. You mentioned a term that I'm not very familiar with, and Kevin M out there is wondering, what's the coaster feature that we keep hearing about? What is coaster?
Okay, now we're going to go geek. I'll show you. So this is the coaster chart, and let's give the origin story on this. One of the guys on Heavy's board is avatar is coaster for a roller coaster, and he's a math teacher, and I think he's actually got a degree in mathematics. And he figured out that there's if you organize the faces a certain way, there's, as we know, there's similar faces that make similar combinations of 7s. And what he did is he started organizing groups of numbers that had the same 7s. Like, for instance, this group here, if you can see on the screen, the top and bottom of this set, the bottom and top of this set, those are the 6 ways you can make 7s with this particular set. And he discovered, or cataloged, I think discover is more of a fair term, since I think for years many of us were using Bone Tracker with lots and lots of sets, and sometimes we'd see the same SRRs, but we didn't necessarily see the relationship between the faces and how we got to the same SRRs. But now we can. If I look at this group number 2, which is the 1, 1, 2, 3 group, all these 24 sets, and these are all top facing, all these 24 sets have the same SRR. So if I'm looking at my Axis Power Craps 3326 V3 reference set, all these other sets in this column number 2, have the same SRR. And if you put some of these sets into Bone Tracker, then you can see which ones are, say, 9 rich, 5 rich, inside numbers, horn numbers, which set gives you the most twos. And now you have a little more confidence in changing sets in mid hands because you're not changing SRR. So what we're trying to do with this in the beta that Mark and I are working on is trying to harness this in with the transposition tabs so we can see which sets deliver what distributions of numbers.
Okay. All right, so
Ask
we can
how
look
that
forward.
would be very better.
What was it, Heavy?
I said, ask how that's to your advantage.
Okay, how is that to your advantage?
Tell them, Nate.
Well, let's say you're on the ATS and all you need is a 2 or a 12. Or let's say you've got the 12 by a lucky bounce and you just need a 2. Some of us study these 24 sets and say, oh, I happen to know that, well, we'll go over here to group number 9 or group number 7, because I know it a little better. I know that this particular set up here, the 1, 3, 3, 2 for me, is too rich. So it's got the same SRR as the one I've been throwing to make 5s and 9s, but since I've only got $100 on the layout or $150 on the layout, and I need a 2, which is the $900 shot. Let's face it, if it's 555 on the ATS, if I make that 2, I win $900. I might try changing my set to 1, 3, 3, 2 and giving it a couple of tosses. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. Wish it would. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But if I know from my bone tracking that this set gives me 42s over the course of 720 tosses, and the average distribution of 2s is 20 in 720 tosses, that means I've got a better chance with this set than maybe this set down here that only has 23. Yeah, it's a slim, small advantage, but everything we do in dice setting is a slim, small advantage, and advantage is still advantage.
Right. Awesome. All right. So, Nate, thank you very much for showing us the Bone Tracker. And it's going to be made available sometime next month to the people on the Axis Power Craps forum. Not the Facebook forums, but the actual Axis Power Craps forum. Is that right, Heavy?
Yeah, initially we'll limit it to the Axis Power Craps forum because just simplification for us as far as download is concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, neither of us are IT experts anymore. So.
But you've been to all these conferences I hear about.
Yeah, well, that was in a former life. That was back when I was doing software for the Navy. And if I told you anymore, I'd have to kill you.
All right, guys, we have gone way long, but we have a lot of questions and comments out here. I'd like to do some rapid fire, just try to keep the responses really short, and let's see what we can do. Question from the Dice Grinders. Do you guys specifically toss from... oh, no, I'm sorry. We already asked this question. Let me keep going.
Yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. Puppy paws. Should your toss be consistent before even? Puppy paws, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to say there. If you post it again down towards the bottom, we'll get back to you here in just a minute. Biff Helms.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing I tell people. It's the 3 C's of a good toss. It must, your grip must be comfortable. It's got to give you an element of control, and it must be consistent. And by consistent, I mean you need to throw at the same angle. Your toss needs to be level with the deck and square to the back wall, and you need to hit the same spot on the table every time. Most people can't do that last one.
We've got Rob Downs, a fellow person from Wichita here with me. He's planning a trip up to your KC class later this year. Do you have a date for that yet?
I haven't yet. I think it's going to be in August, but I'm not absolutely sure. We were planning on doing it in May, but my daughter, who is in possession of my table up there, is moving in May to another part of town, and until she's moved and settled in, I can't do anything. So as soon as I have that sorted out, I'll make an announcement.
Oh, here we go. Puppy Paws, he did repost it. He says, should your toss be consistent before even considering to use Bone Tracker? I can tell you that I can feel the pain on that one, because I've done my set of 720 and it says, hey, this is your preferred set for inside numbers. Then I do that set and it says, hey, this is your preferred set for inside numbers, and it's different. So is consistency critical to Bone Tracker?
I think consistent practice is critical. You're going to find over time things evolve. I mean, I've talked to fellows who track their rolls, and we're talking about some fellows that do 100 tosses a day. And they might say for 4 or 5 months, I'm on this set of sets, and then the next couple months, I'm on this set. So that's the sets I use in the casino. But as they keep practicing, let's face it, every 10 days, that's another 700 tosses. Things evolve. Are they consistent? I mean, if you've got one book of 720 that has an SRR of 5 and the next book's 11, either you had some really great tossing in 11. What's the third book going to say? Is it going to be 11? Is it going to be 4? Is it going to be somewhere in between? You're going to get more information out of Bone Tracker if you have a consistent toss. And if you don't have a consistent toss, you need to look at the information in Bone Tracker for clues on why is my toss inconsistent. In other words, if you have a lot of double pitches, and let's say you're using a hardway set and you're double pitching, you get a lot of 7s, your SRR is going to be low because you're double pitching 7s. If you're bone tracking and you change sets, or you're a little careless on keeping track, then that's going to be a problem too. So there's just some discipline required to building it. But let me also say this, David, on the flip side of the coin, from a statistics point of view, and remember, Excel just does the math for you. It's not going to say, hey, you're a great tosser or not, even though we have the chi. But from a statistical point of view, half your tosses are going to be some flavor of randomness. Either one die goes off axis, it goes off, maybe it comes back on, or stays off, or both die go off axis. So there's always going to be a random component to the Bone Tracker. So what you want to look at, especially on the both die off axis, am I getting one particular result? I mean, you can get up to 4 results on the both die off axis. So it's always, if 90% of them are the same thing, well, maybe that's something that statistically is important to know. So it's not just a question of looking at my SRR and saying, oh, woe is me, or oh, whoopee-doo. It's a question of looking a little deeper and see what kind of numbers you're getting on the toss stats tab and things like that.
You also need to know how to, you need to know how to interpret those with the one die off. You know, if your left die is off axis, why is it off axis? What causes it to be off axis? You know, if your right die is off axis, same question. If both die are off axis, why? You know, and with experience, you can look at those results and understand your fingers are not aligned, your thumb's pushing through, you're rolling your wrist over. I mean, there's certain things involved in your toss that cause those things. And with experience, you can look at it and interpret that. But for a new person starting out, it's very difficult to grasp those basics sometimes.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We got Richard Wiener out there. Is Heavy the only instructor who identifies optimal grip based on the hand shape and size? And I believe Bo Parker might do some customizations. Yeah.
Yeah, Bo works on things based on your hand and hand shape and size. Everybody's hand and grip is a little different, and I suspect that the folks at Golden Touch probably allow for that. I mean, pretty much everyone tries to start you out with a 3-finger grip or 1-finger grip, a pincher grip. Mm-hmm. The big issues for most people come with the thumb placement on the back, the angle that you come down on the back, or or alignment of the thumb on the back of the dice. But finger alignment on the front, placement on that, it's pretty consistent from school to school, I think.
Moving forward, let it roll. Thank you very much for the super chat there, buddy. I appreciate it. Sarge Vi Guy, when will you guys be doing a seminar in Shreveport?
Shreveport's a little tricky. I have some friends over there that will let me use their table to do a class, and I've done several over there. But with COVID, I'm not sure how how willing they would be to let me use it, because the table is in the warehouse in their place of business. And so I've been reluctant to even ask about that. I live basically 90 miles from Shreveport in East Texas, and I do private classes. They're in Tyler, Texas. If anyone can make the run over there, I'd be glad to book a time with you. I don't have a thing going on in April or May at this point, so I am booking private classes over there. So if anyone's interested in doing a one-on-one, we could certainly work something out.
Well, and one thing that we haven't gone over really, and just in the interest of time, we'll hold on it to maybe a future show if I can get you back on, but the Craps Cruise. So I don't know if you ever leave out of, want to be Galveston? So that might be an option for you.
Yeah, well, Allure of the Seas, which is my favorite Craps Cruise ship, is being repositioned to Galveston in 2022. So I think you can look for that then. The problem with the smaller ships is they only have one craps table per ship. And the larger ships like Allure have two tables. Allure also has the best craps crew and the best casino management crew of any of the Royal Caribbean ships. We've used them many times for craps cruises, and they know our program and they work with us very well. We've got the one coming up in October, which is Craps Cruise 4, which has been rescheduled. And we just booked Craps Cruise 5 for Valentine's Week in 2022. So we're planning on being sailing after September. Yeah. In fact, I got an email the other day from Royal saying they're planning on sailing in June. So I think things are about to get back to semi-normal in the cruise industry. We'll see soon.
Yep, very good. Friend of mine, Dan Lewis, out there, he's a Golden Touch person. And,
I know Dan.
Yeah. So you're friends with Dan, even though he's with Golden Touch. So we can all get along.
Yeah, I like Dan. We met together at Main Street Station a couple of years ago and drank a few beers and played a hand or two together. Good guy.
Okay. Nate, here's a good one for you. Bill Costner out there. I use Bone Tracker and believe in it. However, I use Apple. Will your updated system be a little bit more friendly towards Apple?
Geez, I wish it was, but Apple isn't very friendly to Excel macros. And so if they were more friendly to me, I guess I could be more friendly to them. You need the macros to get some of the things out of Excel, especially with the beta version, where we were really fortunate. One day I had kind of a lightning bolt hit me on how to expand things. So I looked at the roll between sevens tab and realized that somewhere in Bone Tracker, they're counting the number of tosses between sevens in order to build that page. And so it took me about 2 weeks to figure it out. And I had to teach myself virtual basic for Excel. But hey, you're on lockdown. You can't go to the casinos. What are you going to do? But unfortunately, there's no virtual basic that the Macs will let you run. So, when I bought my new computer here, as much as I already had a MacBook, I opted for this Latitude simply because I knew I could run macros on it. And now that I'm up to here and trying to get rid of, or not get rid of, but to figure out the macros and do some new things with Bone Tracker, I'm glad I've got it. I might say too, the macros that Sean wrote on Bone Tracker, from someone who used to teach computer programming, they are super impressive. from a coding point of view, from a really tight programming, they are top notch. And as all programmers, there's not enough documentation, which makes it kind of funny to figure stuff out. But the macros are really the macros are going to be the key to how we do bone tracking in the future. And I read an article the other day where even Excel and the Microsoft gang are starting to beef up in that area. So there might be some interesting things that we can do with that once we figure out what Microsoft is doing. But
and that's just it. This is hobby. This is just part time for you guys. This is not what you do. And as much as everybody would like a mobile phone version or a Google Chrome version, there's just so much you can do. You have to pick your battles, right?
Mostly, we're just making a better tool for ourselves and sharing it with our friends.
I mean, the reason the beta does so much work on ATS stuff is because we like to hit the ATS.
All right, so here's another question. Have you ever been banned from a casino for dice setting? And I'm going to piggyback off that. Can you tell us a little bit about the Bally's stories that have been going around?
Yeah. Never been banned, been thrown out.
Yeah, me too.
Told you're through today, but I haven't been banned. Most stories about people that have been banned for dice setting are bullshit. I'm sorry. There's a particular individual who claims that he's been banned from all these casinos for dice setting. I won't mention this guy, but he also is a well-known card counter, and he advertises on his website that he teaches card counting. So I'm pretty sure the casinos have been on his website and seen, oh, this guy teaches card counting. And matter of fact, when they barred him from the casino, he was playing blackjack. So he can talk about being banned for being too good at throwing the dice all he wants to, but I think it had something to do with card counting. But anyway, the reason you get banned for the casino is being an asshole, not for setting the dice. If you're polite and they say, sir, hit the dice, hit the back wall with both dice. Here's an idea. Hit the back wall with both dice. That's the freaking rule,
Yeah.
So do it. Follow the rules. And sure, sometimes one die is going to pancake in flat and just die, and the other one's going to hit the back wall. Well, the camera doesn't know that. And the guy that's standing there, the floor guy, has been told in a manager's meeting, make sure everybody gets the back wall every time. And if they don't, bitch them out. So they're doing their job. And if they don't, they're going to get bitched out. So don't worry about it. The guy's protecting his job is all he's doing. Just say, I'm sorry, I apologize. Here, all the hard ways for the boys. Pick the dice up and throw them again. Just do your job. Hit the back wall. Yesterday morning, I knocked off $160 in don't bets by a woman who rolled a hard 4. One die didn't make it to the prop box. The other one made it to the other side.
Oh, yeah, she got me too.
They called it a roll, and I'm like, seriously. But I didn't complain to anybody. They did warn her, ma'am, both dice have to hit the back wall. And she just turned around and walked away from the table. But she did come back. I think they passed the dice on her. But
well, they passed them to me, and then I didn't hit the wall, and they beat me up too.
That's what happened. So, the shit gets shared. I'm sorry. That's what happens. It stirs it up for everybody. So don't make a big deal out of it when it happens. Just follow the rules. So
we all played Bally's. Your question mentioned Bally's. We've all played Bally's this weekend, and no one's hassled us about dice setting.
Not at all.
And so that must have been we read about that. That must have been an isolated event because I was very deliberate when I set the dice before the meet and greet on Friday, and I made 4 points pretty much back to back to back. No one said nothing to me except they thanked me for the dealer bet.
And one of the individuals, floor people who is known to sweat the dice setters over there, was working this morning, and we got absolutely no heat from him. So I didn't see it as a problem. Now,
Okay.
Nate did get a little attention yesterday at an off-strip property with the repeater bet when he hit the repeater on the 5 by throwing 5 consecutive 5s on the come out. That did get a little of attention. A suit showed up at the table shortly thereafter, but we got paid.
We got paid, and then we threw 2 more just for fun.
Oh, wow. Nice. All right. So Steve Solano out there, he wants to know, has Heavy been back to AC? Grits wants to know.
If I'm coming back to AC, maybe they'll scatter my ashes out there when I'm dead, but
All right, so that's going to be a hard no to AC.
I said when I left New Jersey in '76, I was never going back, and I've been back, I think, 4 times since then. Never say never is the answer to that. I actually talked to Hardway Jack about the possibility of using his table at the Hardway Jack Hideaway, complete with stripper pole, about a year and a half ago to maybe do a class in the Atlantic City area someday, and he graciously said, "Come on down." But then things got confused, and I had conflicts on the date that we planned, and never happened. But I'm not thoroughly opposed to it. The problem is my expenses go up exponentially when I travel to the East Coast. So it's a little pricier for me to go up there. And the markets that I do travel to, Biloxi and Vegas, I can get to a lot less expensively. I can drive to Biloxi, and Vegas via Southwest Airlines is a cheap date for me. So those are some of the determining factors and why I go to those places. So.
All right, let's see if we can run through a few of these pretty quick. We got Hawaiian Crap Shooters. Brian is out there actually watching and joining to the party a little late. Hey, says aloha. Okay.
Let's see here. That chicken
yet, Brian? So Kay Revels is out there. She's in Vegas. Harris has no plexiglass tables that open at 6 p.m. Rio has no plexi. Resort has no plexi. And Circa has no plexi. So there's quite a few places out there that you can play. Question is, do you want to play at some of those places? I'm not familiar with all of those tables.
Yeah, we scouted out Rio earlier in the week, but haven't gotten over there yet. Some of the guys played the Harris table that doesn't have plexi. It does not open all the time. They open all the plexiglass tables first, and in the last resort, they open the one without the plexiglass on it. We were over to Gold Coast yesterday, and they have one table with no plexiglass, and the others have plexiglass. And same deal. They open the one with no plexiglass as a last resort. When they have the ones with no plexiglass, they limit them to 3 players on each side. When they have the plexiglass, they can put 4 or 5, depending on how tight they make the shooting stalls, as I call them.
Gold Nugget is no plexi either.
Golden Nugget, no plexi. So there's another one for you.
All right, next question. Are your 2021 dice out yet?
My 2021 dice will be shipped Wednesday. They are sitting in Midwest Gaming Supplies warehouse right now. I got a note from Kim over there this week, or actually today, saying new dice were in, and I told her I'd be home Wednesday and send her an e-check and get her done. So,
and if somebody wants to order some genuine casino dice from Axis Power Crafts, where do they go?
Well, I'll put the link on the Facebook page, on my websites, and all that good stuff. And you can order them through Facebook, through AxisPowerCrafts.com, CrapsFest.com, or on the Craps Forum, which is www.AxisPowerCrafts.com/Craps Forum.
Okay, very good. Debbie Swenson's out there. She's saying she's seen several questions asking where to find the seminar info. So where's the best place to go to find your schedule?
Well, I post a seminar schedule in every newsletter I send out. And guys, if you're not on my newsletter distribution list, you can sign up for it for free on accesspowercraps.com or crapsfest.com, either one. That's crapsfest.com. Go to either of those websites. In the top right-hand corner of the page, there's a sign up for our newsletter link, and you sign up, and that'll put you on our newsletter list through MailChimp. And I send out a newsletter once a month, and occasionally I'll do a mid-month update. And at the end, the last thing of that newsletter is a section called Heavy Downrange, and it shows what's coming up as far as seminars are coming in that section. On my Facebook pages, there are private groups. If you're a member of Facebook, go search for Heavy's Access Power Craps group and Heavy's Wrong Way Craps group, and click on the join this group thing. There are some questions you need to answer on those groups in order to be considered for membership. They're not complicated. They are like, are you a spammer or a flamer? Are you a live person? What's a 41 no 4 pay? Simple questions. If you're a gambler, you should know the answer. And then if you answer the questions, we'll approve you as being a member of the group. Get you in the group there. You can click on the events section, and they will show our upcoming events for the next couple of 3 months. So that shows you what's short term coming up. And then on my accesspowercraps.com/craps forum page, you can click on that, and there's a section there called Attend a Seminar, Buy Heavy's Stuff. And if you click on that, you'll find announcements there as well. If you go to join that Craps forum, there is a $12 registration fee. There's not a subscription cost, but the registration fee is there because I need a little tool to filter out the spammers, flamers, and fake Viagra salesmen, the porn hustlers, and all those guys. So people that pay $12 are real people. The flamers, spammers, and porn hustlers are not willing to pay $12 to get onto the forum. So,
well, and I could vouch for that forum. So I've been a member on that forum for quite a while, and what I like about it is it's very organized. So you have topics that you can go directly to learn more about, and you don't have a whole lot of the fluff that you might have in a let's say in a Facebook forum. It's a lot more targeted and directed, and it's easy to ask questions from the professionals. So Nate, I know that you're a moderator out there. So it's $12, guys. It's nothing to get access to real experts.
Archives.
yeah.
52,000. I think 52,000 posts is the number right now that are archived on the site, including posts by really some of the best dice controllers around, going back over about 15 years now. There's just some fantastic information there. You could not buy a craps book at any bookstore with the wealth of information that's on that site for $12. It just doesn't exist anywhere else.
Real quick, Duracell 8's asking a question. The percent of on-axis throws, I think we established 50% is a good target.
Right.
More is better, but 50% is really where you want to be looking to try to get to it. If you can't get to 50%, you need to analyze why. What's stopping you from getting there? And Bone Tracker can help you with that. Orvie out there. Hey, Orvie, glad to have you on the show. Great explanation of on-axis and off-axis tosses. Very good. And Robert Delgado's wanting to know.
If you get to Sherman, Texas, and you need a little help with archery equipment, Orvie Cantrell, Orvie's archery shop, man, that guy knows everything. And if you want to schedule a big game hunting trip up to Colorado to go shoot some elk with your bow and arrow, Orvie can get you hooked up. He's the guy.
So Robert Delgado's asking a question. A recommended bankroll. And I think that's kind of a loaded question because it depends a little bit on where you play and the table mounts, and it kind of opens up a can of worms. Is it your bankroll? Is it your session roll? Is it?
Yeah. So there you go with the bankroll question. There's been a lot of things said through the years about bankroll as far as what you should or should not have. They used to say based on your average bet. So much times your average bet. Like a $5 game, you should bring $500. A $10 game, $1,000. Or if you're betting 44 inside, you should bring 10 times that. Enough to get you through 10 players, $440 or whatever. I look at it a little differently. I look at it based on how much would you have to lose before you'd say, screw it, I'm through with this freaking game forever. Okay. So let's think about that for a minute. What's your number? Now, think in terms of discretionary income. You've got Bob over here who says, well, I make a lot of money. I could go play $200 a week every week. And if I lost that $200 a week, it wouldn't affect me. It wouldn't affect my lifestyle. I don't want to lose $200 a week, but if I lost $200 a week for a year, 200 times 50 weeks is how much? Help me, Nate.
200 times
50 weeks.
Would be
about $10,000.
10,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're a young man. He's a young guy making a lot of money. He works in California, where everybody lives in a 700 square foot apartment and drives a leased car they'll never own. So they spend all their money on toys and gambling. So I'm sorry, if you live in California, I just described you, please accept my humble apology. I know you spend most of your money on taxes, but that's another story.
That's a different podcast. Yeah.
That's a different podcast. So here we go. What did I say?
$10,000.
How much a year? $10,000 a year?
$10,000.
And you're 25 years old and you're going to play for the next 25 years? So that's $250,000?
Yeah, practically nothing at all.
So you're willing to lose $250,000 before you stop? You say, screw it, that's enough? Are you crazy? That's your loss limit? Okay, seriously now. I took you through a little something there, but that's what you got to think about when you think about bankroll. Because when advantage players look at how much their bankroll is, they look at their lifetime bankroll, not their next session bankroll. And when you're going to bet by an advantage method, such as the Kelly criterion, you're going to bet a percentage of your lifetime bankroll. So if you have an advantage of 1% over the game, your average bet should be 1% of your lifetime bankroll. So what's 1% of $250,000?
$2,500.
$2,500 is your average bet. So that means if you're going to buy in for 10 bets, then you need to be buying in for $25,000 per session. Now, that's probably an oversimplification of the Kelly criterion and bankroll. But I'm telling you, and the Kelly criterion, by the way, is just a method of sizing your bets based on your lifetime bankroll, your edge over the casino, and you resize your bets as your bankroll decreases. So if you lose half of that money, if you lose half of that $250,000, you only have $125,000. Now you only have to take $12,500 to the casino. So you're betting $1,250 average bet instead of $2,500. But that, I didn't answer your question yet. Bring all you can afford to lose and don't lose it. That would be the best answer I could give you. Now, don't get into the money that you can't afford to lose, okay? You got to have a separate bankroll. I have had a separate checking account for my gaming account for 20 years. When I told my wife I'm going to start playing seriously, I'm going to open a separate banking account. It's not going to affect the house money. This is cash money from gambling. That's where it is. That's where it lives. I've had that bank account ever since. Sometimes that bank account will have $40, $50, $60,000 in it. Sometimes it'll have $500 or $600 on it. Trust me, it goes both ways. And when the bottom falls out of it, you gotta do what you gotta do to rebuild it. You find those opportunity dollars, what I call mama don't know money, to pack that thing back up with and get it built back up. And you gotta reduce the size of your bets and chump the change back in there until you get it built back up. And it
All right,
grows.
I think that's some great advice on the money management side of things. Let's see if we can knock some of these others out. We're going on about 2 hours here, and I want to be respectful of your time, but see if we can get as much as we can. Hawaiian Crap Shooters, thank you for the super chat, and Nate, also from the Hawaiian Crap Shooters, he's saying Hawaii, hit him up. He'd love to take you out to lunch Hawaiian style. So when you're out there on vacation, give Brian a call, and you guys might be able
to. Brian. Yeah, Maui this weekend.
Awesome. So Kay is asking a question. What is a good SRR?
$250,000, call me.
I'm sorry, Nate. I didn't get I talked over you there. What was that?
So I talked over you. I apologize. Have you said the guy out there with the $250,000 lifetime bankroll? If you're that guy, call me. Call me.
Nice. Okay, so Kay's asking about the SRR, the sevens to roll ratio, and does that carry the same weight as an on-axis percentage?
I think on-axis is more important because if you're going to have a good on-axis, you're going to have a good SRR. I look at both. It's not like, one's higher than the other. There's several things I look at. It's also your double pitches, it's your single pitches. I mean, there's so much information once you have the data that you can slice it and dice it. So obviously, if one is bad or both are bad, you're going to start saying, well, what's going on with this? And you're going to start digging in and trying to find out what's going on. But I think both are important. I think on-axis percentage is probably more important. It is to me. That's what I always look at first.
Okay. Tyler, thank you very much again for the super chat. Do appreciate it. And Dr. Ryan Luke out there. Thanks, Dave. Always a pleasure to listen to Heavy and Nate. So you got a Dr. Ryan out there. He's a fan.
Dr. Luke.
Yeah.
Dr. Luke.
He's a buddy from Kentucky.
So Hawaiian Crap Shooters is asking, some of the other programs track an SOR. And what's your opinion on the SOR? Seven out ratio. So this is where a 7 to come out 7 doesn't hurt your SRR.
I don't like to count my 7 outs. I'm sorry. I want to count my number of box numbers. I want to count what makes the most 2s and 12s so I can win the ATS. Okay, in fairness to the question, there's the second tab in Bone Tracker that tells you your number of tosses for each hand. So you want to look at that. I mean, there's always going to be a few, PSOs. There's always going to be a few hands greater than 20, but you want to see how many tosses on an average you have, because that's where you're going to make your money. Mm-hmm. And if you're waiting until the 15th or 16th toss to be breaking even, and yet Bone Tracker says your average number of tosses between 7s is 7, well, that says maybe you should change your betting strategy. Maybe you should try to move that number up to 8, give yourself a little extra on the average. So I think that's where I would focus my energy on, how I can keep my dice on axis, how I can get maybe a few more tosses between 7s.
Yeah, I have my own opinion on the SOR, and to me, it's a feel-good number. It's a feel-good metric. It's a way to inflate a number to make it look a little bit better for you. Because unless you are really trying to hit a 7 on the come-out roll, that's the only time an SOR really gives you a good metric. The rest of the time, you got lucky and you're getting credit for it. So I'm not a big fan of the SOR.
Well, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, you're counting your 7s anyway, so you know how many you've got. You got a number of 7s, you divide it, and you can get your sevens to rolls ratio pretty easily, but it's is it helping you be a better setter? Is it the statistics you want to use? I don't use it. I think on-axis percentage is more important. One die off axis is more important. Which one is more off than the other? Am I inconsistent there? Those are the kind of things I want to look at from book to book.
Yeah. Got a couple of people posting some places that don't have plexi, and we're going to move on from those real quick. Toothpick Ted saying he's had problems shooting at the M. Their cleaning liquid does not dry quick enough, and it affects the first couple of tosses. So, yeah, I'm assuming there at the M, they probably spray your hands before you touch the dice.
Well, they spray your hands, but they spray the dice, and they're very generous with the stuff. I've actually sent the dice back there, as well as Gold Coast, and say, can you dry these off? Or if they don't want to do that, I'll just start rubbing on the table till they're dry. And I'm very ritualistic about it, so they get the idea. And same thing with the Gold Nugget. I've actually had to ask them for their towel. Hey, can you dry these off? And of course, as soon as I try to cover the dice up with the towel, they offer to help me.
Yeah. It's like the trick that I use is I'll hold one hand out for them to spray into the middle, and then I never touch my fingers. I just rub it like that. And so that's how I get around it.
Well, I take my own spray because they try to gel me up, and the gel skeeves me out. So I just say, oh, I got mine. And today they offered me some gel at the Flamingo, and I just held my hands up and said, I'm trying to quit. No gel for me.
Awesome. All right, Elsie, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Much, much appreciated. And that actually gets us caught up, guys. We are to the end of all of the questions and comments. So let's say...
yeah. Where's Ed? I figured he'd be there after offering to let me wear a black hat today. I told him, I've already got a black helmet. Thanks.
Yeah.
Give yourself to the dark side.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and wrap up the show here. Nate, Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show. It means everything for me, and I know that the public at large just enjoys the opportunity to actually chat with you and listen to your stories. So thank you guys very, very much. Really quick here. I am on several different social medias. I've got my YouTube channel here. We've got Instagram. We're on Discord, Facebook, and even on Twitter. You can find me on any of these different social media outlets. So if you're interested in any of those, hook me or ping me. We'll get you set up. Coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next week on March 29th, we have Cousin Vito from the East Coast. We spent a lot of time talking about Vegas. And let's go out to the East Side and get an East Sider's perspective of gambling out there. Then on April 5th, Lady Luck HQ. That's a tentative date. We're still trying to work it out and nail down that date. But we're going to deviate from slots just a little bit and go into the world of slots. On April 12th, Howard Newman returns with another night of stories from Howard Rock and Roller. April 19th, we've got the Platinum Craps book author Garrison Russell. And then April 26th, we have a Craps forum featuring Press by One and several others. So if you want to be a member of a forum, please give me a shout. We're trying to find a few people to come on the show that night and just, again, have kind of a general Q&A session. So that's going to do it for what's coming up soon. All right, guys. Any parting words of wisdom for the gang while we still got you?
Oh, we're just proud to be here, just like Cousin Minnie Pearl. Thanks for having us out. Hope we can do it again sometime. If we stepped on your toes, we didn't mean to, and we hope you don't have ingrown toenails.
All right, guys. Thank you all.
You guys, I know it takes a lot of work to put one of these together, and really appreciate your efforts as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you again next Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.